section is on 2020 business planning. So if you turn to the third page, I'm going to give you an example of a question that is deep style thinking for your business. What skills or knowledge do I have that differentiates me from other real estate agents? Because that becomes your mission statement and your why. So let me tell you what I put down there is energy and ability to negotiate. All right, so let me give you an example. I spent about 10 minutes at the end of my listing presentation when we get to commissions around negotiations. Because generally speaking, I'm going to be a percent higher than anybody else they're interviewing. And I tell them that I can make up a percent in negotiations fast. Would you like to hear why or how? And of course, what do they say?
Yeah.
Yes. And so I say, all right, well, let me ask you this. As you're interviewing other agents, ask them, when a buyer's agent calls you and says, hey, I just viewed the house at 123 Easy Street. Have you had any offers? Who has listings in here right now? Have you been asked that question?
Yeah.
We get asked it all the time, right? So I throw that to the seller, the consumer, the seller, and I say, how is your agent going to handle that question? So I say this in the interview, in the listing presentation. The seller's like this, right? They have no idea what I'm talking about because they don't even know that things go on, little things go on behind the scenes, right? So the way that I answer that question is ability to negotiate, right? And energy. Yours is going to be different than mine, right? This is your business planning, not mine. Let me tell you how I answer that question. I say, the activity on this house has been unbelievable, and I'm expecting an offer any minute.
That's a good one.
Because I am. I'm expecting an offer any minute on every one of my listings.
That's right.
Now, if you say that during the listing presentation and you don't get the listing, right? You always want to end with the fact that if you hear a better marketing plan or somebody outbids me on commission and does it for less, or outbids me and does it for more, always hire the best agent because I'll work on the differentials and the deltas. So I tell them that and I leave with that if I don't leave with the order. All right, so that's how I answer that question. Now, you can get very in-depth on the backside. Okay, so let me give you an example. When I went through my last year's revenue model, I found out some daunting information. I made $250,000 more in 2019, and I only brought $65,000 more to the bottom line. So I'm finding out where that other money went. I know some of it went to a very expensive CRM that I was involved with, and some other items. I picked up a couple more salaries. So anyway, I'm trying to place where that money went. You guys should be doing the same thing, right? Because it's not only gross, it's what you net. Have you guys ever seen the 60 Minutes deal where this husband and wife were working really hard for 5 years, and they sat down with a financial planner, and they found out by, I'm just giving you an example, not gender related, because it could be the guy, you know, whoever's the breadwinner. They found out by both of them working for the last 5 years, blood, sweat, and tears, that they were negative impact. By the time they had to own 2 cars, by the time they had to do 2 insurances, by the time they had to send their kid to daycare, by the time they had to factor in cooking out because one of them wasn't cooking in, they were underwater by her work, but him or her working, depending on who the breadwinner is. I'm not being gender specific. They were finding out that they were underwater by him working. And they bawled. They were in tears. Could you imagine that? 5 years where they could have spent with their infant, because now their infant is 5 and they went down the river, right? So you got to look at that stuff, right? All right. So attached is your 2020 business planning. This is a great guide. It's been vetted. It's been looked at. We've used it for years. It's been, massaged. Good luck. And if you have any questions, call me. Next session is on buyer counseling sessions. So one of the things that I find fascinating out there is if you can tell the buyer the whole process prior to them finding the house, wouldn't that be comforting? So a buyer counseling session usually takes about 1 hour. So in today's message, you're going to get a bunch of attachments, right, that will help you through your buyer's counseling session. So the first thing is have them come into your office prior to looking at houses for 1 hour. And I have a whole spreadsheet, in my opinion, of what you want to discuss with them, right? All right, you'll get it, I got it. I'll make sure you get it. All right, so number one, you want to let them know that your services are free, okay? Seller pays the commission. A lot of people out there think that they're going to pay you. Number two, so I'm going to go through these real quick just for the video, and then we're going to recap with questions. Number two, as a buyer's agent, you're going to point out the issues that you see that are on the surface, right? If you're walking up and there's power lines, a busy street, a barking dog, as a buyer's agent, not that you're going to be negative Nancy, but you should say, that dog's a little loud, right? Okay? You're going to point out things because you're on their side. They will appreciate you for that. There's a lot of times I'm on a view lot on the golf course and I have to tell, well, look at the power lines. Oh, fuck, I didn't even see that. Right? Okay. Buyer broker employment agreements, right? You should discuss these. Buyer broker employment agreements. It's the opposite of a listing for the buyer. It ties them to you. Buyer's advisory. Give this to them early, guys. This is good reading for them prior to them finding a house. Right? Sex offenders, school districts, airports, scorpions, pests. Contract. Give them the full purchase contract and highlight things. I would say things like this. When you buy a house through Dell at RE/MAX, I make sure you get a contingency based on appraisal, a contingency based on inspections, not inspection. Can you do a window inspection, roof inspection? Right? I'll make sure you get a home warranty. I'll make sure you get a clue report. I'll make sure you get a clue report of the last 5 years of insurance claims. And then you should discuss the earnest money with them. It's usually, whatever it is, whatever your philosophy is. I don't believe in the 1% rule. So then you go to this profile, needs and wants. Go over every one of these questions. What's the difference between a need and a want?
They have to have the need.
Yes. So I want 5 bedrooms. Yeah, but how many do you need? I can get away with 4 because you got to tell them our MLS is finite, right? If they say 4 and a bedroom and a home comes up that's 3 bedrooms plus a den, are they going to see it on their profile? No. You got to tell them that, right? So this is a whole list of questions with geographical boundary that I've used for years. Okay? Market conditions. You owe it to them before going out in the field. Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? If they're 300 and under, I would tell them just be aware that FHA financing is going to creep in and that somebody can own a house for only 3.5% down and it's extremely competitive. And if you're in Tempe, forget it, right? Like, you owe that to them, right? Tell them the market conditions. Lending. Here's the way that I discuss lending. I say it's really important to establish a relationship with a lender because if I get a pre-qual letter and have it in your file, our chances of success skyrocket. If we find a house first and you don't have a pre-qual letter, somebody else is probably right behind us that already is ahead of us. Or right before us, you guys get it, right? All right. I tell them that we have a full vendor concierge service program, roofers, plumbers, electricians, painters, we got everything. And then I tell them this is really important. Has anybody got the call on a Sunday morning that says, hey, Del, I walked into a new home place yesterday? Yeah, I got that call from my pool builder for 30 years, and he said that he told them that I was his agent. I call the agent.
Still,
He didn't say anything.
what?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, he's not doing a deal without me. And I'm like, well, he said, well, he really likes the house. So lucky I knew the broker, called the broker, I ended up with 1% of the deal. Not 3. Cost me $10,000. And my pool guy knows. He knows better. But he didn't even think he was gonna like it. But if you can coach them, says, listen, even if you're just looking, when you walk into that new home sales center, pull out my card, tell them right up front, I'm working with Del Rounds. Do you have a problem with me looking at your models? Because he is going to be my agent. Okay, you got to coach these guys on that. If they're out driving around and they see a sign call, should they call that agent? No. Who should they call? But if you don't tell them that, right? How are they going to know? FSBOs, how to act on FSBOs. Can you be involved with them on buying a FSBO? Yes. Yes, you can. You just got to get a compensation agreement from the FSBO. Those are all important. Digital apps, right? When they get pinged, if they get on somebody else's search, make sure that you're the first call. The digital apps are big. Everything's at their fingertips. They'll probably, if you have a good relationship with your buyer, they'll be calling you that a house just came up. Because if you have them on the proper search apps, right? They should be calling you. And that's my last thing, portals. If you could think about how much better your life would be if you can get the buyer to slow down and come in and sit down with you for 1 hour and you made that a requirement in 2020. Wouldn't life be a lot easier? Now, Alex, you might add 4 or 5 other things on this that I missed. Okay. So in today's session, you're going to have a very large attachment of all 3 of these. Now, you guys want to brand this. You want to brand this to you, like the color porter team, right? You want to brand this. Right now it's branded to me. And one of the things I noticed, I have mailing address on there. This is how old this form is. Mailing address, right? How about email address? So as I go back and I revisit some of my stuff, what a joke, right? Maybe another question on here is, do you text message, right? How do you want to be communicated with? Okay, that's your buyer counseling session. Go get them.